Morning, it's 10:01 a.m., calling this last budget session to order, November 15th. Members present include Vice Chair Robert Levenheim, Supervisor Brian Barrett, myself, Chairman Jacob Pride, Leslie from Holly Corcoran's office, Treasurer Frank Cefali, and our office manager Julia Heiliga. We do not have any minutes to approve. There is no public with us on Zoom or in person, so we also do not have any public comments on agenda items, so we're just continuing to work through the 2022 budget. Julia, we picked up our assessment from the county. Do you want to let everyone know whether we won out or lost out?
Sure. Jacob was kind enough to pick it up yesterday, and Smithfield Township is currently assessed at $676,470,120.
$13 million.
Yeah, and there's a heck of a lot of exemptions too that, it gets annoying after a while.
All right. So.
Have you adjusted the revenue to that yet?
No, I picked that up on, it was Friday afternoon. Yeah, they don't actually, I don't know, they make you sign, it out and everything, and more than half of the municipalities hadn't picked up theirs. So they're getting it in the mail, so I don't know how they're doing their budget.
What do we ascribe the change to?
Losing appeals, assessment appeals, mostly on larger properties, not really smaller homes. But there also weren't any that were large enough for us to, get involved in the challenge either.
Did we calculate what that comes down to? I have a comment. $13 million.
Julia, you have a computer in front of you. You are better situated to do that than me on my phone.
Some of the reassessments.
So we are now set for $460,000.
That's at 100% collection. I don't know if we budgeted, we got about what we budgeted, or at least we're anticipating what we budgeted for this year. But I think that at 100%, anticipated collection, that's I don't think it really ever happens. Because I think if you did the old or the current millage rate on the old assessment, which I do remember by heart, it's a spreadsheet up or something.
Numbers.
Yeah. The old assessment was $689,766,211. So, factoring 100% collection, which I think is dubious at best, it's already a loss of, $8K, which could translate to more.
More than 80%.
What, historically, Jacob, do you have any data on that, just in the last couple of years, or maybe 3 years?
Historically on percentage of collection, or?
Yeah, percentage of collecting.
I don't know the exact rate. I just know that it's not necessarily typical to assume you'll get 100%, right?
Right, I don't know what percentage, 93, 95%, what's done in 10.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Of the current budget, that's already, $10,000 less than than 2018 and 2019, which I'm sure we're also not 100%, but we're probably 93 and 95, like Frank suggests.
About 395 and change on it, if you do 95%.
That's just a little, that's about $3,000 more than last year, according to our sheet here.
What was last year?
Well, last year, we collected $392,243.96.
And what was the percentage of it?
Yeah.
So your assessment's going down from the year before.
Yeah, about 13 million.
And the 395.
Yeah. Well, that can't stay. Somewhere, that doesn't really help us. Obviously.
Well, the assessment going down is not gonna help.
No, definitely not. It's not opposite day, so.
Should we change that number to 395,000?
I think that we really have to stay at worst, about revenue neutral. I don't think it's wise to continue to hatch it ourselves.
What the county has really done is a reassessment that's, pushed the burden of, revenue somewhere else. Right? And it looks like it's raising taxes. Lower the assessments, raise the tax rate. I don't know how else you do it.
And this has probably hurt, I don't know, I think the county assessment probably went up, but I know that the distribution is not necessarily where it should be. I think all of us understand that.
Are you gonna adjust that 415 now? Given the new drop in assessment, or?
I don't think we can afford to just, drop, 25 or 30K just for the hell of it, but maybe let's look at the rest of our expenses before we get back to that. We have, pretty much the revenue firmed up, and at this point, I know that we don't want to go crazy on staffing, but that the increase really has to reflect the cost of living adjustment.
Was that put in yet, or not?
It's all salaries are still reflected at 2%, something. Yeah, Social Security, COLA did go up by 5.9.
5.9.
That's pretty much where it
So
happened.
did Medicare went up too, that just came out yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, that's another question. We're not paying, health insurance for part-time employees, but we pay Medicare for lowest term. How is that justified?
I think there was an adjustment in the hourly rate of pay, for one time. Are we gonna do that this year or no?
I personally wouldn't. I think that most of the salary is commensurate with, it effectively includes the Medicare supplement. So it's kind of considered on her hourly rate, not necessarily her.
Right.
Yeah. I wouldn't do that. I mean, at present, because we had these emailed to us, I reviewed a couple things, but that I know that can save us a couple bucks, but that's about $1,700 out of the gap of 40.
So how did we get to minus 40,000? When we left here last time, we were higher than that.
We were, I made a few adjustments in the budget. After Leslie's office found, that our reimbursables related to Ron's expenses were a lot higher than we had projected, we ever adjusted his unreimbursable expenses to meet the full year's salary as we were expecting. so that was changed. I haven't gotten any actual information about, putting the truck on finance, as the board has asked for. No one's gotten back to me within a day.
Sure.
But I did go online and found just a general 5-year auto, policy. So those numbers, the truck has been entirely taken out of the, highway fund budget and shifted into the general fund with an understanding that we're going to pay approximately $20,000 a year on a 5-year finance plan for that. I did speak to Ed, and he said that when the board signed the contract for the truck, we did say that we would pay for it outright, so we'll have to pursue a Laguda loan for it.
Why don't we just go back and see if we can renegotiate the contract?
That is also something that we can do.
We can ask.
You know, like, hey, what's the difference if we lease it or if we buy it? What do they care? They're making more money if we lease it.
After that point, with the extra $102,000 freed up from highway funds, I shifted additional highway-related expenses that were in the general fund to the highway fund. And we had shifted $365,000 into general road maintenance category. I dropped that down to $350 to better reflect what we're assuming we're actually going to be paid. Is a bit of space. The highway fund paid over the $138,000 that made in the general fund of road maintenance. We're shifting all of that out, funding that calculation that I did during the meeting. And then going through, I believe I also changed and dropped the board salary. I know that Robert had asked for it to be up at 65. I'm unaware of what the board is planning or how you wanted that to reflect, so I put it at 50. But if you want to change that, by all means, let me know. I believe there were a few other minor adjustments that were noted in the plan. For example, our real estate transfer taxes are up significantly, because of the October 28th update. That was originally $275,000. Not what we're planning to actualize for this year, but a slight understanding that we're probably going to see.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it can't continue, I mean, it'll continue, but it can't be the exact same. That'd be kind of crazy. Now, I know they're minor, but I can tell you where I found, relatively simple areas to save a couple dollars. Look at 404-314, the special solicitor. That's like not necessarily required to be that high. We had an extraordinary amount of hearings this year that we're not going to be having next year. I don't think take it down much from 3,000, but like 2,500 I think is more reasonable given the huge, fluctuations. I don't think that it's really going to remain, as high as it was. It's going to, average out higher, but the actualization, for this year is pretty low. So, I also found, stop me if I'm going too quickly, 409-321, which is telephone. That's at, $6,000. With the meeting room upgrade, we won't be relying on a phone line to sustain audio connection. So, the phone bills before we did Zoom were about $600 a month. Now they're much closer to like $660, $670. So I figure about, a $60 per month savings, which is $720. So I call that one $5,280. I know it's pinching pennies, but they don't necessarily need to be there. And then we have $5,000 on the traffic signal repairs. I still think that's high compared to the average. I think 4,500 is more reasonable, especially since,
Jacob, what line item are you on?
oh, sorry, 433, 374. That's pretty much all I, hopefully,
What was that number you were given?
yeah, 4,500 instead of the 5. This year we had, really big year, but, statistically, not likely that the same exact event is gonna happen.
We really have little about here. Let's talk about raising taxes. What if we raise the rate? What would we gain in terms of revenue, and what would the rate have to raise?
Excuse me, and again, because we went through this and then we chickened out. I think, 1 mil generates into 125,000. It did several years ago.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. The millage rate has been the same for as long as I can remember.
And me too.
Thanks to Brian.
In fact, yeah.
Maybe it's time.
Well, I think Frank very subtly said, sooner or later, 17 years is.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Robert, on that.
No.
I keep telling the story of my father always told him. The man who fed his horse a little less every day and then was shocked when it died.
Okay. All right. Well, if we are going to do this, we have to be reasonable. Obviously, we're not the only municipality that's facing shortfalls over, whether it's inflation, whether it's, one-time costs. I mean, not on climate change where, of course, the 100-year flood seems to happen every year now. We have, the traffic signals or all these other things. So if we were to increase millage, of course ours is the library tax is the smallest, but our tax is the next smallest, and, for most people that is fairly small. So, I wouldn't want it to be anything crazy. Right. Right. Well, ours is currently, our millage rate is .616. So.
Okay. I wonder if it should have been 6. I vote. That would have solved everything.
I think somewhere in this county, there's a magic kingdom where the assessments actually went up rather than down.
I'm sure somewhere. There's not a lot of, not to get on too much of a side, track for more than a few minutes here, but Ross Township actually doesn't levy a real estate tax, so it doesn't really change their bottom line. As long as people keep moving and working there, their EIT goes up. Now, eventually, if you do get commercial businesses and, they're larger, if you get a Vigon in Ross and they don't pay any property taxes, yeah, that's awesome, but then when the township needs a new truck, I don't know what you do. But, I don't know, what would, if it's .616, what would .65, like, Brian?
What would be?
Well, I think we have to make sure that,
are we close to a?
I would think so. I think that our the cost of living.
There's a lot of things that I can't went through that we never put in this that I think we should. But the biggest question to me is, we raised the rates. What does that mean to the average resident here? Talking about $10, $3, $50, $150. I don't know.
I don't think there's many people that their township property taxes. My house is like 80 or something maybe.
You try to figure it out on $200,000 house.
Yeah.
Well, the earned income tax rate.
That's fixed. That can't be changed. And I would genuinely consider the rest of the budget fixed too. I think that on the staff staff stuff, I think that the wages have to meet at least the 5.9, cost of living adjustment. I think so.
Still have to get that through final.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, there's the parks. We got a lot of money for it.
Lower revenue too on that real estate.
Right. And the supervisors.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it goes on and on, and there's, a lot of stuff here that should go in.
I agree, but I don't think it's worth trying to cram it all in at once.
The can down the road.
Well, I'd like to think that in the last two budgets, we've made up for, a lot of lost ground, but I don't want to, I can't bring myself to do it all at once. I think there's a lot of things that are in here that are significant improvements, but I don't think we can.
What's the difference between where we are and all at once? How much?
I think it's a lot. I think it's about,
200,000?
I think it's in that ballpark, yeah.
Okay, so raising taxes, how do we raise, let's say, 200,000?
That's impossible. The taxes are 400,000. You can't raise them another 200. That would, triple or not triple, but that'd be huge. I think that
1/3, yeah.
I don't think that's possible. I think, what would .650 do, Julia? But at first, we have to meet the obligations we have now, because I think that's set, but we also have to consider that, on a deficit of 40,000 where you're increasing salaries by 3, naturally that doubles, so it's probably about 20,000 on top of that, so we have to figure we have a 60,000.
To answer Jacob's question first, 5 would bring us up to 340,000 at full collection.
What?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, 440.
Oh, I was like, oh my God, what?
Time to go home.
$439,709.48. You multiply that, I don't know exactly where our collection rate is, but in general, I think it's 93%. So multiplying that by .92 brings us to $404,532.
That can't work.
No. First of all, you gotta get that number, that's number.
Right. Well, I'm thinking,
would make up for the loss included with that.
right.
Yeah, and then if you go 92%.
It's horrible. That's what it is now.
So you still have the 40 to make up yet?
Ugh.
Yeah,
And the original 1 mil.
Yeah.
Well, if we were to raise the millage to 1 mil, that would be almost 40%.
That can't, that's like egregious. I mean, yes, I know that it's not necessarily a ton, but that's it's not like our millage rate is .81 or something. Yeah, this is like .6.
School district.
Yeah.
Up to you.
Yes, yeah, that's,
Let me
sure.
just say that
Because that is separate from the budget, theoretically. This is just the planning portion.
in an informal survey, very informal survey, I found that most people had reductions in Smithfield Townships in their taxes, surprisingly. If they say now, I could ask, our panel here.
Probably hit the commercial and the big property. That's what happened. It's done.
Yeah.
That's what the appeals,
Oh, yeah,
That's where the appeals are
Because
coming.
we've done basically, checks of $50, $60 to a couple homeowners, but it's really just been, the big ones, and they didn't really affect, the current, just going forward, fortunately. I don't think we'd be able to return, well, we would, but it would be painful.
When's your next public meeting?
Oh,
Your next,
the
23rd.
23rd, yeah.
or is that when you're gonna, final, you're gonna adopt the budget, I think you have to, right?
I think we gotta give it 20 days, so I don't
Okay.
think we can do it technically at that one.
That's the,
Special?
no, we're still on track. We've got a budget meeting on the 28th of December. It needs 20 days at least to be advertised and available to the
Has to
public.
approve, right?
Once approved, right? So giving us one extra day, as long as we have the budget approved and advertised by December 7th, we're good to go. The deadline for the public record requires for us to
Yeah.
do information, that brings us back, but December 3rd, so giving myself one day to format this budget, because we currently can't release it to the public as it is, just to make it clean, like we did last year.
Right.
If we give me one business day to do that, the budget must be complete by December 1st, no later than.
And that covers the 20 days.
One public meeting?
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
have the regular work session on December.
You gotta vote on.
14th?
Public meeting.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
We would vote
absolutely.
to accept the budget after it's been advertised for the 20 days. The board will vote to accept the budget on December 20th.
Yeah, I think you have to put it up. You have to approve, does the board have to approve the budget? Preliminary budget?
So that would be done on the 23rd.
23rd.
Unless we get pushed back for some reason.
Well, let me-
Drop dead date is December.
Right. Let me ask, what would 7 do? I guess the 92% or 93 seems reasonable, but I don't wanna go crazy.
0.7 at a 92% collection
Uh-huh.
would be 435,600.
Alright.
And about 20,000 to the way it is.
Wondering what to do on your phone.
If you want me to run numbers for you, I've got the calculator.
Yeah, you're still not even,
Oh, yeah. Fortunately, we haven't used any of the fund balance, but like I said, I don't wanna use much of that either,
not, yeah, that's it.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I do have a question for the board. I know you discussed changing all of the salaries by that to adjust the
Yeah.
COLA. Is that something you want to do? Has that changed?
Yeah, let's see where it takes us. That's always fine. I mean, if you don't raise by the year-over-year inflation, like you're effectively cutting, you know, that's generally not a good thing for morale, productivity. It'll be like if McDonald's decides, okay, we're going back from 15 down to 9.
Never happened.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, it looks good for them now to pay people a fair wage.
Until the robots start coming.
All right.
One of the factors that hasn't been talked about, since 2008 on, wages were pretty much, frozen and stuck. And I think right now, what we're seeing is, there are many factors, but one of them is that wages have not been raised in the last 12 years.
Kind of like us. on our taxes.
Yeah, we're a factor in that too.
I would think that if we actualize at 880 on the earned income tax, I don't know how recent the 815 is, or last year, but I don't know. Maybe I should go ask Lynn what it is right now. It's possible for her to do relatively quickly, right?
I'm sorry, I was ready.
What the EIT is presently, because we have it at 820, but, we're set to actualize it around 881. There's a lot of reasons.
The database that has it current, I have currently, 689.
That's right, but then it always, later year, it always picks up for,
So maybe it's not.
it scares the hell out of people.
Yeah, me.
Yes.
Every year I panic and.
This won't be exact, because what I've done is taken all of the salaries and just multiplied them by additional,
Sure.
but now we're running at a deficit of, it's about 1,000.
So it's, well, say theoretically, just because I mean, there's not much left to really do, but figure out what exactly happens from here. But if we do 0.7, something like that, and at 92% collection, that's $435,650. What does that do to our bottom line?
The number, yeah, plugging the number in is just $135,000. It brings our bottom line to, yes, sir. It's $20,000 increase.
Yeah. We figure what that does on a house worth $200,000 currently versus what it will do.
Greg, 200,000 you said?
Yeah, I think that's what the average it out.
Okay, so a current house worth $200,000 will pay $123.20 for current millage.
So 0.7.
Right.
If the board were to shift to 7, it would go up to $140. It's $16.08 worth of shift a year. Feel free to check my numbers if I'm running them.
Yeah.
And our millage has been standard all along.
Yeah.
I don't know if you.
So we know where Jacob sits, where do you guys sit?
Yeah.
I mean, he's looking at 0.7, are you guys agreeing with that, or are you gonna?
Can I just say, when we did this, I spent more time in the tribal than, my dogs. And sincerely, if she was really good with it. It got to the point where it was almost as if we do this, it's going to be fair to our businesses and our residents.
Yeah.
But it was too goddamn low, and I apologize for that. But that was the way I was working with everybody and the advice I got, and then finally, when we did it, then Middle Smithfield Township, there's 7 or 8, and, our neighbors all over us.
Yeah.
Said, this is the time to do it, and they did it.
So what would you propose, Ron?
Well, I like Jacob's 7. 7 and a quarter. It's how much money are we going to generate?
Yeah.
So,
Well, if you two think 0.75 or 0.725 or,
so in running the numbers,
won't bother me.
figure if you raise the millage by 0.01 mil, that will gain the township an extra $5,000 across the entire town. I just ran the numbers for 0.77 mil, and that brings our collection to $480,000. Times 20%, right? Sorry, what? Times 20%, 92. I'm running a 92% collection rate.
Is it to 480?
480,000, and that gives us a net income of $5,000. So if we ran it at, that's feasibly 0.7.
0.76.
So at the moment, we're somewhere between 7 and 7.5, 0.7.
Yeah. But if we get to 7, point.
7, are we gonna become a borough?
Yeah, that's a good.
I don't understand. I mean, there's a big difference between Mount Pocono and Delaware Water Gap, where it's like, 800 people versus 4,000 or something, where, but even up there, it's like, I think the assessment, we was running numbers, so I won't bother her with the packet, but I think the assessment there was only like 200 something million.
I know Robert's not happy.
So if we, I mean, if we do .76, then we're still out $1,000.
Well, you did .77 a second ago, I mean,
Yeah.
if we're talking about .01.
Yeah, the 4.77 is our rate.
We said .77.
No, a total millage of .77.
And what I point.
We're at .616. So that means our millage would go up by .154.
Okay, and that $200,000 home,
Well, we're not just, currently, we're scheduled to collect about $450,000 at 100% collection. Because when the .616 was created, it was based on 100% collection, not 90%.
Right.
So not only are we, in new millage, dropping down to a 92% collection, now to adjust for what we're actually getting, raising millage for our entire debt.
95% collection, that
Or
seems more.
92.
90 is more realistic.
And if the rate goes up, the collection rate or the percentage goes up.
Really? But then, by the same token, don't delinquents go up?
Eventually.
Yeah. Basically, that'll balance the budget, but it'll be growth in that.
Yeah.
We haven't had a millage increase in a long time.
17 years sounds right.
So an increase is gonna be a bit of a shock to them.
Gonna be a shock.
We haven't had.
But we're minuscule in our,
Last year, so we did go through a reassessment in 2020, so, everybody is
A lot of
aware.
people drop down.
significant
Yeah, most
drop,
people did like fourfold drops, between 3 and 4-fold.
except me. That's fine. Do my fair share.
Our municipality, Monroe County entirely was, valued at 25% of assessed property. So everyone's property value at assessed rate went from 1920, jumped into 600,000 for our millage. Our millage dropped. That's the 100% rate.
The old millage, which was on the 25%, assessment, was 4 mils. So, I think .77 is realistic. Real close between the .76 now, but I, 77 gets us to, at least, about even with the, with what our expenses are, with the cost of living adjustments.
And Jacob, the other thing is, we learned the hard way when we did this incentive for volunteer fire company people. And we said that we can deal with our own tax, and here's what it is.
Right.
But it's not worth it. You know what I mean?
That's true.
It was a decent percentage of the tax, and none of them took advantage of it.
It became 100, it was like 100% last year, and we, last year, and we only forgave $500.
Yeah, right.
It's the least we can do for fire and EMS.
And I run the calculation, the average $200,000 home, this change will raise taxes by $30.20.
A year.
So it'll be 130, just tell me though, that way, it's supposed to be 155, right?
Yeah, 154. At .616, it'll be 123.2, which is where it is now. Raising to .77 will bring it up to $154 even, $30.
Even even numbers, I like
20
that.
cents change.
I think that's, about where I'm willing to go. That gets us to 480 in collection.
Robert, what do you think?
Robert? I don't think it's too low.
Tax,
The average person spends $250 on lottery tickets, and we're talking about $16.50. That's,
Guess I'm really below average on that one.
Robert, where would you like to?
I think we've got to get up to a comfortable figure where we can run this township. Right now, I still think it's threadbare.
I think he does to make a point,
I mean, if it went up $50, I don't think it's terrible. Better than $16 and whatever it is. Alternatives. Why don't we sell ourselves to Middle Smithfield?
No, it was the other way around,
We
Robert.
could form a SPAC, and let them buy us.
What's a
SPAC.
what's the acronym for?
he's making that up right now.
When you form a special, stock company to buy another company.
No, it's the other way around, Robert.
Well, Robert does make a good point, though. We're plugging a hole now and bringing ourselves up to fair even.
That's true.
What are we going to do next year, when we continue to talk to the street? We can hope that our CIP and our real estate is the same. But do we want to consider, does the board want to consider plugging the hole now and bringing it back to dead even? Or, like, Robert, forgive me if it's words in your mouth, or should we consider going over that so we don't need to consider raising taxes again next year?
Or do it gradually.
You're gonna raise them every year.
There are probably things in your budget this year that you may not have to do again next year, right?
That,
Build up possible little surplus if they're able to thing.
reasonably, and I'd love to say that in a perfect world, but part of the reason we have the deficit that we do this year is because we need to buy new equipment.
That's big.
Another piece of equipment
So you'll
gonna
have the same amount next year.
right, but my point to this is that another piece of equipment might break next year. We weren't planning on having to repair Kings Pond Road, surprise, that happened. So the township will always have expenses, and obviously we can't plan for surprise expenses saying, oh, we're going to have an accident and we're going to lose this vehicle, but we need to be prepared for the additional capital investment.
But if the budget does that, it has room for those things, because you never know. Something's gonna go wrong.
That's a good way, something will go wrong.
Oh, yeah, we didn't think the traffic light was gonna get struck by lightning.
It'll happen.
What? Yeah, that's true.
So on the cost, you say it's like $30 per house, per year for a $200,000 house. On most of the houses in that price range, maybe there's many that are say $400,000.
There's definitely some. You look at, there's actually a fair amount that are probably in that range.
In this day and age, the typical 150 is at least two, just because of the market. And
I can contact the assessment office to see if there's a office value, that's not information.
residential.
Correct.
Now, on our businesses, what's happening is everybody's going to, back to see Cindy Tribal at the tax office, reductions, and they're very liberal,
Yeah, more liberal than me.
Well, that's a good point as well. If we're going to continue to see reductions in the money that we, Yeah, if we continue to see reductions in the assessment, should the board plan for,
What if,
Most of it's over,
Yeah.
I believe. It's in the court systems now. You saw them, they just recently came through. It's amazing who's doing it,
I mean,
and the reason.
Sure. I think you gotta go higher, and I think we need a 10% cushion on whatever we've got, because we don't know what's gonna happen. We just don't know.
I don't know, I mean, if we're at .77, I calculated this, and I am not willing to calculate more, but if it were like .8, that's, $6.60 more on top of what .77, it takes the, $200,000 house, I think I'm correct in saying that's $160, which is an increase of 36.80 cents. Which is $3.06 or 7 cents a month. Figure it that way. No, of course, no one really, you pay it all at once, but when you think about, on a scale.
I remember the $3 and how much it was?
$3.07.
Okay, so if you bought a Mega Million and a,
Yeah,
it's $4. For your lottery ticket.
Somehow I don't think that, when you win and get the free ticket, somehow I think I don't think Sharon Garber can accept that.
I think it's a good measure of what people spend money on.
raising I double checked the numbers, raising the millage to .8 for the average homeowner from .77 would, change the cost from $150
$154 to $160, $6. It's tough, what?
I don't want, I can see us easily getting, started at .65, I can see us going further. I don't wanna go further than than the .8, cause it's, of course, it's all, pennies on the dollar, but at some point we have to,
You like, wait every year.
that's always great.
Well, not covering your bill.
Yeah. Well, on 90% collection, Julia, or 92% collection, what is .8 to?
.8 at 92% production is $127,800.
.8? I think we can do .8.
So what does that give you in your surplus?
And could I bother one of you to double check my numbers? So, I'm in here, I don't want.
It's about, 80,000 more.
The fact that the way you're gonna be,
Right, so assuming that our taxes for the current year, next year are we receive $498,000, that puts us at a surplus of $23,000.
All right.
And there's still some line items we can pick at, as Jacob has already done.
it's pretty tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only, it's
Pretty tight.
I would feel comfortable at that .8 and the 23, because that does give us, what does that take to the bottom line of the expenses? Because I want to get, 10% contingency is not, terrible, but I don't want to go above the .8, so it would have to come from other items.
Sure.
I'm just wondering what 10% of the total budget would be. Yeah.
Total revenue?
Expenses.
10% of the total expenses.
$342,000.
Then a $3 million.
Okay, well, that's not possible.
Keep in mind this number that the board sees for that 10% encompasses all of our grants.
Grants, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
We don't have that, so
And because there's so many, it's really probably, probably closer to like,
But the
nothing we can hit.
.7,
Yeah.
not even hitting point.
I think they're .8.
.8.
Yeah. Right, but she means the, 0.7% of the budget as like the as
Oh,
the
I see,
surplus.
yeah.
Yeah. Not really attainable.
So maybe it's having a goal for next year going forward of
Yeah.
trying to build up what that surplus is.
Yeah. I think that.
Maybe each year you increase it by 1% or something. Build up to it.
I think that makes sense, because we,
You know, the 10% is gonna be a lot to,
right,
build up in 1 year.
because we do,
It makes sense.
right,
You have to think about raising taxes. If everything stays equal every year.
fortunately, I don't think we're gonna have to redo a bridge a second time after next year, so like, there are at least some, hopefully one time, well, yeah,
The other thing that we may do study on it is maybe a fire tax, so things will come out of here, go into the fire.
Can I, again, at those meetings, Robert, Marshall's Creek is adamantly against that.
Huh?
Marshall's Creek is adamantly against it. Remember
You know, I don't know if I'm for or against it, but the only thing I'd like to do is Middle Smithfield is do a study, so we know what the hell we're talking about. Right now, we don't.
well,
It's just the first step.
they kind of do.
If they don't wanna participate in that, I don't know what to tell them, but, it's not costing them anything, and we're not looking for a way to cut them, we're just looking for some, for all senses.
Just
What
separate,
do we do?
separating.
It's up to, 3% is the max, right?
yeah,
See, what they said is, they have a good fundraising, but it's a pain in the tail.
yeah,
They stop traffic for miles around, then they send out the letters requesting your, contribution, as a citizen. They felt that, their reasoning was that if we get a tax, then that's all gone, and that's,
But it should cover what they make on that.
oh, yeah, I agree. Well,
Convincing them that that's possible, is
I don't know, I
Sure,
mean,
but it's still gotta be
some
done.
members that I've talked to, were okay, but I don't know, Marshall's Creek is going through a change of leadership at the moment, so who knows? But I think that we can face probably sometime in the new year, we'll be able to hear from all the fire and the EMS, Pike County, their commissioners are, levied some sort of matching tax for the municipalities that do have an EMS tax. So, maybe our county commissioners.
Don't even think it.
you're gonna go in there and come out broke.
But anyway, that's a possibility within the, who knows?
But, and it's a good possibility.
Study. We don't have no idea.
Marshall's Creek, you guys have been going to the meeting.
Right,
You see the board in action.
yeah,
Thank you. And,
sure.
then you look at Shawnee Fire Company, and, we're on,
Yeah,
it's, they run a really good ship.
they do.
If they're knocking on our doors, it's not for
Right.
big money.
Well, the other thing to consider too is that with the American Rescue Plan Act,
Yeah.
money, we will eventually know how, I presume before the time to commit it is up, we will have a rule on how to, assist, because I definitely don't think all the fire companies, the EMS companies got the same grants that knocked us down. I mean, theoretically, if you take out the grants, we would have been able to use some money to make up for the negative economic impact, but because we were unlucky in that we were lucky and got grants, that kind of closed that possibility, but perhaps that remains open for the fire company. I'm comfortable with where we're at with the 0.8 and the budget, as it stands. I think that, things change, but I definitely think this is a much better position to be in going into the next year. I mean, we made awesome investments in infrastructure and equipment, and, that'll pay dividends. I think that, there probably has to be fine tuning of the numbers. We can't just say, hey, Julia, what's 6% for the the staff, so maybe, because you said the numbers might be slightly inexact, but
Yeah,
once we calculate that, I don't see anything else. I'm not, at least I don't wanna go beyond this. I think we're in a really good spot.
It's a close number, but
Yeah.
I just added 3% to the Medicare calculation,
Uh-huh.
which takes all of the salaries and then multiplies them by 5.0145.
Right.
Just added 3% into that, so it'll be close, but depending on where pennies fall.
Yeah.
Slightly over 20%.
Well, at .8 from .616. Obviously, I don't think anybody likes doing this. That's why, it doesn't always happen, but it allows us to not have to do it all the time, and it allows us to make investments that at this point are critical. So, it brings me no joy to do it. If it would have been possible to do it on the earned income tax, because the state keeps that at 1%, and then they also don't have a progressive tax for themselves. So, that's not really a possibility for anything, but I think that this is good, and I think that our earned income tax may beat this budget, but I don't want to, guess around more. If we're going to average 821, that's pretty cool. I would think, since it did 836 in 19 and 815 and 20, if it'll do 880 this year, then perhaps we'll just be lucky. Next year. I don't see it going down from where it hits this year, but then again, we don't really get the bigger Berkheimer checks until later on this month and next month.
Can Frank, do you hear anything about in Harrisburg, there's a push to, get rid of having to put your ads in the local paper for your meetings.
Oh, right.
And that's a chunk even for us,
It's huge.
Of course, we're busy,
Yeah.
It makes sense.
That'd be the end.
And it's on there.
That'd be the end of every local paper, but so what?
Well, yeah, who reads it to begin with?
Records hanging on.
Yeah, that's all, that's their income,
That is.
that's their income.
And there we go.
We need to subsidize them, that's what it is.
It's kind of like the plastic bag industry. I think there might be, I think that the district, the state senate district that produces the most plastic bags in the Commonwealth is the state senate, is he the majority leader, Senator Corman? Or no, he's the state senate president pro tem, but whatever it is now. I think his district makes that, because I remember in the past we had talked about eliminating, plastic bags and stuff like that, but, it's interesting. It's the same thing with the newspaper.
Pretty much then what we have to do is go to the .8, you'll adjust the wages.
Yeah.
There's three small changes that you brought up.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
The three slight changes,
Yeah.
which, that you got.
Those are in there, right?
I'm live editing this.
That's right, the big bucks, $1,720. But,
That's just for this year, then all.
Hey.
yeah. But I think this is a good position, and I think if this is where at least the majority of us are at, then we could perhaps advertise it, starting next week.
You can only take 1 year at a time.
Yeah.
Might need a lot of equipment next year, and you might have to look at it harder.
Yeah.
If this works for the board, then I will finalize what you've asked me to do, send it out for one more double check for all of my numbers, everything, and then you can authorize to advertise. Well, we've already authorized to advertise,
Right.
but you can officially draft budget
Yeah.
at the 23rd meeting, and then we can get it out to the public record and start the time when our residents can.
Right. Yeah, and then I guess we still pretty much adopt it on the, I mean, we could adopt it on the 14th, feasibly, right?
Uh,
Yeah.
I would need to check the timing on that.
Yeah.
If you approve it, to go to open auction on the 23rd.
You might not make it.
Yeah, you get it there on the 26th.
Yeah.
That would be very,
Like-
very,
Well, I guess the good thing is that it'll be,
we have some buffer.
yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, you can't really start or do this much earlier, you know. It's not like you can start, you know, budget meetings in July when you only have half the year. And,
You wouldn't be able to adopt it on the 14th, it'll be about 2 days short advertising.
all right. Well, I guess we'll adopt at the end of the year, just,
What's the rush?
Yeah, that doesn't matter, as
yeah.
long as you get it in, but.
Yeah, and we'd adopt the millage rate resolution the same day, right?
I'm unfamiliar with that entire process,
I wanna say it would be done the same day.
Yeah, and to raise, the taxes, there's at least a resolution. Maybe something more, Jacob.
Yeah. I will have it in for the board short.
Yeah, get Ron on it, I guess.
Yeah, I will either be going to his office today, or he'll be coming up, because he needs to file for a regular request.
I saw that.
Yeah, so I will touch base with him on that then, and we'll make sure that we're moving forward correctly.
Well, that said, anything else before we consider a motion to adjourn? We don't have any bills during this meeting, of course. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, motion by Mr. Lebanon, do I hear a second?
You have a second.
Second by Mr. Barrett. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.